All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second presentation for the Humboldt History Symposium 2020. Today, we're here with Jan West, the co-president of the Trinidad Civic Club, and she's going to be talking about the past, present, and future of the Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse. To our second presentation for the Humboldt. Okay. So just a little bit of background information. This is the second year of the Humboldt History Symposium. Last year we did an in-person event, and this year, due to everything going on, we've changed it to be online. So if you enjoy any of this content or any of our future presentations, please consider checking out other presentations and also checking out our website, clarkmuseum.org/HHS, where there's a bunch of different ways where you can help support this program and future programs of the Clark Museum and our co-host, the Humboldt County Historical Society. So with that, I will turn it over to Jan to go ahead and get started. All right. And actually, while that screen's getting set up, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the comments section of this video, and I'll be watching for them throughout the presentation, and we'll be able to have some question and answers at the end. So go ahead, Jan.
All right, well, thank you, Katie, for inviting me to share the story of Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse during the Humboldt History Symposium. And I wanted to thank the participants who joined us on Facebook to learn about this beautiful historic structure. So there will be a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. So as Katie said, please feel free to pop your questions into the comments section as you hear the presentation, or just remember what you'd like to ask at the end of the session. All right. So what do people remember most about Trinidad? Almost anyone who visits Trinidad remembers walking beside Little Trinidad Head on the pier. Hibitolia Island and Grandma Rock are unforgettable, especially with a sunset like this one. People love to walk on the beaches, especially the easily accessible Trinidad State Beach. Trails are abundant and frequently used. A hike on Trinidad Head offers spectacular views while trekking by the cross, erected by the Trinidad Civic Club in 1913 to replace the remains of the wooden cross placed there by the Spanish explorers in 1775. The monument has been the site of many religious and matrimonial ceremonies. Trails lead to Old Home Beach, another favorite place for beach time. The beauty of these trails and beaches has provided unforgettable memories. For such a small town, Trinidad has great shops. Visitors remember the unusual items, the terrific local art, and the friendly shopkeepers. Few visitors forget the beautiful ocean views from the many viewpoints along Trinidad's bluff. Trinidad Head is striking and unforgettable, one of the most unusual and beautiful geological formations on the California coast. All these features of Trinidad are wonderful, but the most photographed, most visited, most remembered site in Trinidad is the Memorial Lighthouse. Whether decorated for the holidays or featured in advertising or viewed from the foreground of Trinidad Bay, being an iconic landmark puts the Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse into a special category of significance. These slides have depicted excellent reasons why the Memorial Lighthouse is important, including its role with this slide in the designation of Trinidad as the northern gateway to the California Coastal National Monument. Trinidad Head, with its scenic views of the Memorial Lighthouse, makes a visually appealing gateway. The original Trinidad Lighthouse on Trinidad Head is now preserved as part of the California National Coastal Monument and is under the management plan with the Trinidad Rancheria, the City of Trinidad, and the Yurok Tribe, along with the Bureau of Land Management. The Trinidad Rancheria was the first tribe in California to sign a memorandum of understanding for stewardship of the California Coastal National Monument. Knowing more about the past and the history of both of these lighthouses will help us understand their significance today. We'll begin with the Trinidad Head Lighthouse, which was built in 1871 to protect ships at sea. The first lighthouse keeper was Jeremiah Kyler, who served for 17 years until his death. He was later followed by Captain Fred Harrington, who served for 26 years, and during a storm witnessed one of the most astounding waves ever seen. Over 100 years ago, on December 31st, 1914, the lighthouse at Trinidad Head was assaulted by a wave of monstrous proportions. The light is 196 feet above sea level. Harrington saw what happened firsthand because he was inside the top, trying to keep the lamp burning. In journaling about the incident, he wrote that the wave fell over the top of the bluff and struck the lighthouse on the level of the balcony, indicating that the wave was almost 200 feet high. If you're interested in this story, the full report is available online. It's quite an amazing incident. This photo will give you a better perspective of the height of that monstrous wave. The shelf where the lighthouse sits is 175 feet above sea level. President Teddy Roosevelt's U.S. naval fleet passed by the Trinidad Lighthouse in 1908. These people gathered to watch the fleet sail past the lighthouse that day. Captain Harrington is standing on the balcony. The Fog Bell House was built in 1898 to house the 4,000-pound bell and rests 125 feet above sea level. The bell had to be hit with a hammer to warn approaching ships of danger. The fog bell and the oil lantern were decommissioned by the Coast Guard after electricity came to Trinidad Head in the 1940s. The Fog Bell House is now called the Fog Signal House, but it is no longer accessible by the public. The historical fog bell was displayed beside the Memorial Lighthouse, where it tolled 12 times at noon in honor of those commemorated at the site. The bell has now been moved with the Memorial Lighthouse to a temporary site in Trinidad Harbor. In this photo, Malcolm Cady, who was the lighthouse keeper from 1932 to 1940, stands in front of Victorian residences built for the original lighthouse keeper. In 1961, the Coast Guard raised this structure and built a triplex. but it was so severely damaged in a storm in the 1990s that it was torn down in the year 2000 and it no longer exists. You can see the lighthouse at the left edge of the photo, the residences and the water towers, with the bell tower over here on the right edge of the photo. Here's a closer look. For many years, visitors were only allowed to tour the lighthouse once a year during the Trinidad Fish Festival. With the Bureau of Land Management now overseeing the site, visitors can tour the lighthouse on the first Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to noon with docents from the Trinidad Museum. Sometimes there is a special commemoration for the anniversary of that gigantic wave, usually held in January. A view of the head in 1947 shows the location of the lighthouse site from above. This photo gives you the perspective of the lighthouse location on the head in relationship to the town of Trinidad. Some people are confused about the lighthouses, and many think that the Memorial Lighthouse is the actual lighthouse, but it is actually only a replica of the original lighthouse in Trinidad Head, which cannot be seen from town. It is called Memorial because it is dedicated to the memory of 24 fishermen, coast guardsmen, pilots, and others lost at sea, and 235 people buried at sea. Each year, more names are engraved on plaques for commemoration. The Memorial Lighthouse was built in 1949 by the Trinidad Civic Club on land donated to the Civic Club by the Hallmark family in 1948, with the understanding that a memorial lighthouse would be built on the 45 by 50-foot parcel to display the historic maritime artifacts, the retired lens and historic bell of the original lighthouse, and under the stewardship of the club, to remain a memorial for those lost or buried at sea. A plaque for those lost at sea hangs on the south side of the lighthouse, while another plaque of those lost at sea can be found on the left side of this original stone marker, which bears plaques of inscribed names on all sides. When space ran out on the original marker, the Civic Club placed plaques on the retaining wall at the site. The dates of birth are on the left, dates of death on the right. The second row of plaques was added as more space was needed. An anchor and flagpole were added to the site along with this plaque. To those who perished at sea, they will live forever in our hearts. Each Memorial Day weekend on a Sunday afternoon since 1995, Trinidad Civic Club has organized a memorial service for those commemorated at the site. Boy and Girl Scout members conduct the flag raising ceremony. The program includes bagpipe music, an invocation, a song, and poem. The Coast Guard officer speaks about the duty and sacrifice of the men who died while trying to rescue others. The inscribed names of all who have died are solemnly read out loud. The Coast Guard helicopter, if not on a rescue mission, flies by. Taps is played, then a soulful rendition of Amazing Grace on the saxophone completes the moving ceremony. The Memorial Lighthouse has gone through a series of evolutions since its construction in 1949. This 1920 photo with a black arrow shows where Yurok tribal members lived on the bluff by the ocean in Ture village. The red arrow shows the eventual location of the Memorial Lighthouse. The Trinidad Civic Club respects the sacred site of the Ture and wishes to honor and acknowledge the existence of both sacred sites. Construction of the Memorial Lighthouse began in 1949 and was dedicated on July 25th of that same year. It was first built with a stairway so that people could access the balcony. The steps were later removed for safety reasons. The top of the lighthouse was originally painted white, but was painted red in 1974 for its 25th year celebration. The ladies of the Civic Club pay for the landscaping and maintenance of the grounds of the property, which vary from season to season and year to year, depending on the seasonal display of the paint plantings. Flowers in bloom and fall foliage add to the beauty of the site. It was a rare occurrence to have snow, but when we did, the Memorial Lighthouse was an amazing sight. At one point, it was decided to install a fence for safety reasons. The Axel England Trail was built in front of the lighthouse to access Old Home Beach, located directly below. Later, a wheelchair-accessible ramp was added on adjacent city property, along with benches for seating. Coastal erosion and heavy rainfall undermined the stability of the structure and threatened the continued existence of the lighthouse. At that time, we were alarmed to find severe damage from winter rains and bluff erosion to city property beside a Memorial Lighthouse site and to the parking lot on the street above. During the winter of 2016-17, the soil turned to a pudding consistency and began sliding down the slope. The saturated soil sloughed off and moved down the embankment. The amount of movement could easily be observed by its effect on the wheelchair ramps. This slide shows how close the ground was giving way next to the lighthouse, right to the edge of the southwest corner of the sidewalk surrounding the lighthouse, which was cracked and slightly leaning. The lighthouse itself did not move. The map shows the active slide area on the embankment that threatened the lighthouse in Edward Street. We hired an engineering firm to conduct geological studies of our site. The city of Trinidad removed the sidewalks and benches, along with the parking lot, and is in the planning process to shore up the embankment in order to save Edward Street. We thought that the Memorial Lighthouse would always exist at the end of Trinity Street. The reality was that changing conditions made its current site unsustainable, and so began the plans to move the lighthouse. Our engineers determined that there was a more stable location on our Civic Club property about 20 feet to the east. So we applied for an emergency permit to relocate the lighthouse away from the active slide to the west. The plan was to move the lighthouse over to the vicinity of the small square in the upper right corner of the site. A memorandum of understanding was created after several days of negotiation between Chairman Thomas O'Rourke with the Yurok Tribal Council, the Trinidad Civic Club, and Chairman Garth Sundberg with the Ture Heights Indian community of the Trinidad Rancheria Tribal Council. The Trinidad Rancheria made a very generous offer to provide a temporary site for the lighthouse on their harbor land. There had previously been no other sites available. Both tribal governments pledged to provide resources and assistance in moving the lighthouse and in the development of a permanent site for the Lighthouse Memorial. On January 10th, 2018, a huge crane from Sacramento was positioned to lift the 20-ton lighthouse and 4,000-pound historical bell. The crane had to reach out 60 feet, so that required heavy ballast to carry the weight, which you can see being placed by the workers in this photograph. The bell was lifted onto a lowboy truck donated by the Big Lagoon Rancheria and driven down to the temporary site. Next, the lighthouse was prepared for lifting. 4 rectangular holes were cut in the bottom of the lighthouse, into which 2 large beams were inserted that came out on the other side. These were used to attach the cables for lifting the lighthouse. The Memorial Lighthouse was carefully positioned on a second donated lowboy truck, and the truck began the journey down Edward Street. While we all hoped that it would safely arrive at its temporary home. The crane had to be repositioned to lift the lighthouse off the truck and onto the sand. We were so grateful for the expertise of the crew who had safely delivered the lighthouse to its new location. Because this beautiful, iconic landmark is more than just a replica to Humboldt County residents, the Trinidad Civic Club is determined to relocate it in its permanent home. As stewards of the lighthouse and Memorial Park, we are responsible to the people who have entrusted us with preserving the memory of loved ones for future generations. The lighthouse has been in this temporary location for almost 2 years. The intervening time has not been kind, as the winds have scoured away the sand it rested on without a foundation. Photographer Zach Stanton beautifully captured the essence of the current state of the Memorial Lighthouse with the title of his photograph, Lighthouse in Limbo. But progress is being made to remediate the situation as each hurdle in the process is overcome by the Trinidad Civic Club. Our engineers have determined that the lighthouse location will remain the same, with the new memorial site being built under and behind the lighthouse, raising it up to give it a prominent place and a beautiful ocean view. The memorial park design will include the historic bell, an anchor, and a bench or two. We are awaiting the finalized plans and a budget to reveal the actual design to our community, so that finally we can work together to give the Memorial Lighthouse a permanent home. Since 2017, the Civic Club has been conducting nonstop fundraising. We have paid the $80,000 cost for moving the lighthouse and have enough to pay over $50,000 to hire engineers to study the site, design the Trinidad Harbor Memorial Park, submit documents to the California Coastal Commission, and oversee construction. We are selling beautiful Baroni silver starfish jewelry on our website for very reasonable prices that can be shipped. Soon the pictured memorabilia items will also be for sale on our website. We are currently raising funds to match a $50,000 grant from an anonymous donor for another promised $50,000. Since we anticipate construction costs will fall in the neighborhood of $200,000, we need to raise approximately $100,000 by next summer. The amount of money we need to raise during this COVID-19 pandemic is substantial, but we know that our community cares about the lighthouse. We believe that those who can will come forward with the support needed to preserve this historic 70-year-old structure. Our beautiful lighthouse has gone from its former historic site, but with your help and our community's support, it will rise again. This treasured maritime historical lighthouse will have a new home as a monument to those lost or buried at sea, hopefully by next year in 2021. I hope that this presentation about the past, present, and future of the Memorial Lighthouse has enlightened and entertained you, but most of all, inspired you to join us in the fight to preserve this beloved historic landmark. Please consider donating to this worthy cause. Thank you for participating in this session today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thanks, Jan. So let's see here. We've heard the name Trinidad Civic Club before. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do? Because you do the work with the lighthouse, and kind of what other projects have you guys done in the past? In the present, things like that.
The Civic Club is a nonprofit community service organization. And over the years of our over 100-year existence, the Civic Club has been responsible for a number of basic community aspects of the Trinidad town. For example, the graveyard, the fire department, the library, and so forth. We have raised and donated money to many, many causes within our community, not only our own, but others. So an example just this year is that in September we sponsored a blood drive for the blood bank, the Mobile Blood Bank. We raised over $11,000 for CASA, and that's court-appointed advocates for foster kids in the court system. And then a week later, we participated in the Alzheimer's walk and raised almost $1,500 for that cause. We donate to the Betty Chen Homeless and the Rescue Mission. So there's a number of those types of community support service projects that our members take on and actively participate in.
Okay. And let's see. So there was so you mentioned a possible new site for the lighthouse would be, it was something like 20 feet away from the current site. Is that still the plan?
No, that plan was decided to abandon. In the long run, we wanted to build a site that would, that would serve the community for 100 years. And no one could really guarantee if we just moved it over on our own property, how long that might be sustainable. And so in the end, with the offer from the Trinidad Rancheria, who came to our rescue, we were able to move the lighthouse down to the harbor in that temporary site.
Okay. So a permanent site is still being looked for?
Well, that's what I was showing the drawing for and the engineering studies. We had hoped to move it up the slope a little bit there, but it was just a sand dune. And it's hard to build a foundation on sand.
Yeah.
So the engineering end recommended that we lift the lighthouse about 8 feet, approximately where it is now, and fill that area with a hard pack of rock.
Okay.
And then, it would have a retaining wall, and the retaining wall would serve as a place to hang our memorial plaques.
Okay.
And then up behind it would be where the bell and we have a beautiful anchor that was dredged out of Humboldt Bay that was probably there since, the 1800s, the late 1800s.
Gosh.
Donated by Jackie Parmesan Hustler, the CEO of the Trinidad Rancheria, and her husband. We were thrilled because we wanted an anchor for the site, and it worked out great. So, and we have the son of a woman who plans to donate a very nice bench that will be up on the top so that when people come to visit the site, visit the names of their loved ones, they can sit on the bench and contemplate a beautiful ocean view and the memory of their loved ones.
That's great. And I noticed when you showed the close-up of the plaques, so they had the birth date and the death date, and I noticed some of them had the birth date, but the death date was empty. Were those just people that are planning on being buried at sea? Is that what it is, or?
Well, often what happens is families want to have their names together. It might be a couple or a larger family. So they engrave all the names when they want one name, one member has died. And so that is why there are still blanks. It means these people are still living. And then what they do is they contact us and we add their name, and we know that from their family members that they have passed on.
Yeah, that's a really neat kind of memorial for all those.
Yeah, and so I think what makes it really special is the memorial service that we hold every year. It's very touching. We actually have recordings on our website. 1 year ago, because we always do it in May, someone videotaped it for us. And that one you can see an audience. And this May came, circumstances were such that it was not safe to invite the public because of COVID. So we decided to hold the ceremony anyway, wearing our masks, keeping social distancing, and then posting the video online on our website, which meant it could be sent to family members who live all over the United States. We could send them the link and invite them to view the ceremony. And what's so touching about the ceremony, there's a lot of things touching about it, but for me, it's the reading of every name that's inscribed on the plaques. When people come to hear the name of their loved one, and it's just really a beautiful service. My co-president is the mistress of ceremonies, and she is an officiant as well for weddings, and she just does a beautiful job in planning and participating in this ceremony.
And so you mentioned how people could get involved, helping to donate to help you guys reach your goal for moving the lighthouse. If there was someone who was interested in maybe joining the Civic Club or helping out with other projects, is there a spot on the website for that, or is there someone they should specifically email?
Well, if you email the Civic Club email, which is TCC, Civic Club, at TrinidadCivicClub.org, it will come to me. And we would love new members for the Civic Club. As you can see from the slides and the fundraising we've done, it's been extremely challenging to work so hard and try to raise money. We've done some wonderful events, and now we're the sponsors of and creators of holidays in Trinidad every year. So if any of your viewers come to Trinidad, that is a Trinidad Civic Club event. And really our goal is just to bring holiday spirit and bring Santa to the kids so that they can, families can take pictures of their kids with Santa. And so all of this fundraising has also served to provide functions and events for people to come to right here in our community. It brings the community together who may attend special, events like we organized. But now with COVID, all of those events are no longer possible. And so we've tried to be creative. We do have the items I mentioned for sale on our website, which is basically TrinidadCivicClub.org. And you can go in there and shop. You can also go in there to make donations. We have a donate button with PayPal. Or you can send us a check. And that was the PO box on the slide, 295, Trinidad. So other than that, we are soon going to be launching a small but wonderful online auction. And it will feature jewelry, art, household items, and a number of unique things that have been donated to us. And we really need people to get the link for this auction so they can take a look and see if they can possibly bid on something to help support our cause. And so if you email me at my Trinidad Civic Club email, then I'd be happy to add you to a group email where when we communicate with people about the funds we're trying to raise, you would be sent an email. If it works out that you can participate and be a part of this, we would be so grateful.
All right, well, I'll get the email in the comments for the video so people can send you a message.
Awesome.
And I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up today. Thank you, Jan, for presenting. For those of you tuning in, if you're tuning in tomorrow, November 10th, we have at noon a behind the scenes tour at Timber Heritage Association here in Eureka. That's going to be really exciting. They have some great kind of surprises to share with us tomorrow. And then at 3 p.m., we have a presentation titled Beyond Expulsion, Histories of the Chinese in Northern California by Rob Cliver from HSU. So we hope to see many of you guys tomorrow. Be sure to check out our clarkmuseum.org/HHS website for more information on how you can support this program and future programs at the Clark. And we'll see you all then. Thanks again, Jan.
Thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity to tell people about our beloved lighthouse. Thank you. Bye, everybody.